This is the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com, one of two we're doing this weekend. Tom Leach here, along with Keeneland's director of simulcasting, Jim Goodman. The other one takes a look at a couple of graded stakes at Louisiana on Louisiana Derby Day at the fairgrounds, and as well as the World Cup from Dubai. On this one, we're going to look at the graded stakes races, most of them from the Gulfstream Park, Florida Derby Day card. And we will start in the sixth race, Grade 3 Appleton, at a flat mile on the turf for 4-year-olds and up. Jim, who'd you like?
Yeah, this is a nice race. Only 8 horses in there, but I think it's fairly evenly matched except for just a couple of throwouts. I took War Correspondent. Ran second last time out to Miss-A-Wish, and Miss-A-Wish came up the rail, was very impressive, and he's running in the Dubai World Cup card today. And Miss-A-Wish would be 3-5 in here. I got to think War Correspondent is going to be 2-1 morning line, so 8-5, 9-5, something like that. If you get that kind of price, I think it's a decent price with Velasquez and Christophe Clement. I've made the mistake in the past of underestimating Lochte, and he seems like he always runs right there. And he may not win, but he gets in the money, and he's 4 for 7 at Gulfstream. So I think Lochte's got a shot. He fits well with this crowd, and he was just behind the top choice in the Gulfstream Park handicap. So I'm going to take War Correspondent and key him on top with Lochte the 4. The other horse I like is Grand Tito. Always play Castellano in turf races. He comes from out of it the last time. He got off to a bad start, and he was fractious in the gate, and he almost won the Canadian turf. And if he'd been in the race, he might have won it. Ortiz to Castellano is a positive move on the turf at Gulfstream. So I'm going to key the 6 on top with the 2-4 and maybe take everything in the third key except the 1 and the 7. So I think War Correspondent's a good bet here.
That's who I like as well. I like that 97 buyer, middle of last month, and I think he is going to take a lot of beating in this spot. The ones you mentioned, Grand Tito and Lochte, are two that I had on my list, as well as Arapeka the 5. So I would just key War Correspondent, bet him to win, key him in exactas with 6, with 2, 4, 5, and then flip them the other way. But I think War Correspondent is going to be awfully tough to beat in the Appleton. Let's go to the 10th race. It's the Grade 2 Honey Fox. Fillies and Mares going a flat mile on the turf here. And I'm going to take a shot with Party Now. She won about this time a year ago at Keeneland. And she has 2 wins at a mile, which I like. She likes Gulfstream. I think she's got a lot of ability, as that performance at Keeneland showed, but she hasn't done what some of the others in here have. But Shudwigehi's really sharp at picking spots to let horses step up, and I think she can do that here. Coffee Click coming off a long layout there. She's on top of her game. She's a Grade 1 winner. But I would use Party Now in exactas with Coffee Click, the 8, the 4, Sandiva, and the 5, Lady Lara. All of those are more accomplished than Party Now, so I think you'll get a decent price on Party Now. But this is a challenging one to handicap. How'd you see it?
It is. It's exactly the opposite of the race before. I think there aren't any throwouts here. Maybe Kitty Wine can't win the 3 horse, and maybe Baffle Me would be a stretch. But I can make a case for 7 horses in here. And I went to, I think Party Now's got a shot. I went to the horse on the outside, Marlborough Rose, and that's French for marble, and I can't say it either, but it's Marlborough, something like that, Rose. And Christophe Clement trains this horse for Ortiz rides and has 2 wins here in North America, ran well overseas, and seems like the race fits and sets up for her because Party Now, your horse, and I think Stanford are going to go for the lead, and I think it sets up for a closer. So I'm going to take the outside horse in a logical, hopefully, way, has shown the ability to close the first 2 races in North America. Baffle Me and Kitty Wine are long shots, but they exit the South Beach and were right behind the 9, the Marlborough Rose, in that race. So I may go all in the second leg and key 3 or 4 horses in the third leg with Party Now and Sandiva. I think Marlborough Rose, it sets up well for her, but I would, in multi-race wagers, I would take many more than 2 or 3. I would go 5 or 6 deep here.
11th race, the Grade 3 Orchid. Fillies and Mares 4 and up, going a mile and a half on the turf. And you've got a good mixture here, horses that have proven themselves and others that look like they're just on the cusp of doing that. Who did you like?
I like Riposte here. This one was a little bit easier. I'm down to 2 horses here. Riposte, the 7 horse, had the perfect prep race in the very one here on February 21st at Gulfstream. Got beat by a length and a half by Irish Mission, which is no crime in itself at 9-5, but had been off for 8 months. So she needed the race. Mott and Castellano, going from Rosario to Castellano, was kind of an even toss up there, and so I think Riposte fits very well here. Second off layoff, Bill Mott is 34%. So I think it's a reasonable thing to assume that she's going to take a move up. Tabreed was right behind her, and I think she's very competitive here. The other horse that I like, Photo Call, Graham Motion. The one thing I hated about Photo Call, I couldn't believe this statistic when I saw it. Julien Leperoux for Graham Motion is 0 for 24 in 2014 and 2015. So that's amazing to me that he hasn't even gotten a smell at Gulfstream for Graham Motion, and he's one of his go-to riders. So that would be a negative for Photo Call, but I think she fits here as well. But Riposte, the 7, is my top choice.
It's an interesting stat of Leperoux, because that's one of the reasons I went with Photo Call for a bit of an upset here. I just think Leperoux, one of the things he does best is ride late-running horses on the turf, and times his move very well, and I think he's a great fit for this horse, but that's just statistic is a little unsettling. She did have some trouble in her prep race, so I think she can bounce back and run better. I'm going to try a Photo Call for the upset, use her with the 2 you mentioned, Riposte and Tabreed, and also use her with Beauty Parlor. The 12th race is the Gulfstream Park Oaks, Grade 2 for 3-year-old fillies going a mile and a 16th. How'd you see this one unfolding?
Well, I like Bird at the Wire. I think that the last time out she was a little bit too far out of it. Corey, I don't really know what happened. I mean, she was dead last, and she got off to a rough start, and she winds up getting beat by Neck, and Acadia's Phaeton didn't get an easy lead that day, but the track at Gulfstream, as you know, is very speed favoring on a normal day, but I think there's enough speed in this race to set it up for Bird at the Wire. Acadia's Phaeton is going to be challenged, I think, by the 6 Asking for Money, and I just think Bird at the Wire runs by him like she did in the Forward Gal on January 24th. So I like Romans' horse with Ortiz up. I like Acadia's Phaeton and Asking for Money, one of those 2 to hang on for second. But don't be surprised if one of the clunkers gets up for second after a tough pace.
I'm going to go with Bird at the Wire stablemate, Christina's Journey for Romans. I think she needs this to be able to get into the Oaks. She needs to run first or second here to be able to have a shot to get in the Oaks. Get a little bit of a late start as a 3-year-old, and he's got his go-to rider, Corey Lannery, in the saddle on this one. So Christina's Journey, I'm going to try for the upset in the Oaks and use her with Asking for Money and Bird at the Wire. It could be a Romans 1-2, and I'm going to go for the bigger price. I think will be the bigger price in Christina's Journey, number 5. 13th race is the Pan American at a mile and a half for the boys on the turf course. I went with another Motion horse here. He's very good in these marathon races. I picked him in the Orchid. I'm going to pick his horse here, Glenard. Thought this one finished strong in his U.S. debut and now goes second off the layoff and could improve. And he's got to beat some horses who have accomplished more, but I think he's maybe up to the task at a bit of a price. I'll use Twilight Eclipse with him, also Imagining the 3 and Pyrite Mountain 7. But I'm going to take number 9, Glenard, to win the Pan American. How about you?
Well, I thought I was sneaking one in on you. I like Glenard too, but I like Twilight Eclipse a little bit better. My play here would be an Exacta box with the 8-9, and if Glenard gets on top, that's great. Twilight Eclipse has run behind Main Sequence the last 5 times he's run. So Main Sequence is in Dubai today, so he's not going to beat him today.
Doing that.
Yeah, so he's not going to beat him today, and I think Twilight Eclipse is just so consistent and so tough, and Albertrani will have him ready for this off one tightener in the race before. So I think that the Glenard has a good shot. The other horse I'd like at a price in here is Change of Command. I think there's a chance. When you look down this field, nobody really wants to lead, and sometimes a mile-and-a-half race is decided with a slow pace. And if you look at Change of Command's last race, he slowed it down to 50-4 and 116 for 6 furlongs, and was caught by Main Sequence and Twilight Eclipse, but ran pretty well. And I think you'll get a price here because Twilight Eclipse is going to take all the money. So Change of Command just could get out to an easy loping lead, say a 51 or something, and hang on. But Twilight Eclipse would be my first choice over Glenard.
And finally, the Grade 1 Florida Derby at 1 mile and an eighth. And the winner here is probably going to be, like a good chance, one of the leading favorites for the Run for the Roses. So who do you like?
Well, I'd like to pick a non-favorite, but I can't do it. The only horse that I do like, and I mentioned this in our other podcast with Materiality, was Stanford running in the Louisiana Derby a little bit earlier. If Stanford runs well there, look at Materiality, because Todd Pletcher only run twice. You mentioned earlier that Dale's horse needs the points to get in the Oaks. This horse has no points, so Materiality needs to run big here to get in the Derby. But I can't go against Upstart. The Fountain of Youth was pretty impressive, even though he veered in and took out. It's a knockout. He beat It's a knockout fairly and squarely. I thought it was a good takedown because he did interfere, but I don't think he was ever going to get by him. So Upstart's a deserving favorite, but I would look at Materiality as having a shot at an upset here, just because of Todd Pletcher and because of the company he's kept. He's won by 4 1/4 and 5 3/4. Big step up to a Grade 1, but I think he's got a shot. Amy's Flatter, I thought, had a shot, but Josie Carroll's complaining about the one hole and doesn't like stuck down the inside. So I would think it's those two, plus It's a knockout. Looked good in the Fountain of Youth. I don't think he was going to beat Upstart, so I would be surprised if he does it today.
Got to see it the same way. I think Materiality is the only horse that I think in this group that could beat Upstart. I love to see a horse come out first time out as a 3-year-old and run a best ever Beyer Fig, which this horse did, and by 4 points over his previous best. So it was a significant move forward. Then the next race to regress and kind of yo-yo then back up, either in the Derby or the race before the Derby. And I look for Upstart to get back to that 106 Beyer level or better maybe. And I think that's too good for anybody in here, unless Materiality is just something extra special, and you just don't know. So I would, if you're doing multiple race wagers, just use those two. But I think the class edge for Upstart, I think he's going to win this. I'm going to use him to win, and then use him in exactas with the 7 Materiality, the 4 It's a Knockout, the 1 Amy's Flatter. But really, it will be pretty strong on the top end with Upstart. For me, is I just hope you get maybe a decent price, since his Speed Fig did regress last time. Maybe it won't get quite pounded at the windows as much as he did coming off that 106 Beyer. And if Upstart wins this, as we think he will, I think he'll go postward as one of the horses to beat in the Run for the Roses against the Baffert group coming in from the West Coast. Keep your Keeneland Select accounts funded for a big day of racing like this, because you never know when a good opportunity might pop up and overlay on the board in some of these deep fields. So best of luck with your wagers, and we'll see you next week for opening weekend of Keeneland in the In the Money podcast on KeenelandSelect.com.